Yo,
What up, though?
I got to talk. I gotta tell what I feel. I gotta talk about my life as I see it.
alright then. It's time for you to bring it to the table.
Turn up your radio wherever you at. We about to bring it.
StreetBeat
with Tony B.
For the next hour, Tony B will give you a chance to tackle local, national, and international issues that affect your community.
StreetBeat. Tony.
Good evening and welcome to this edition of Street Beat with me, your host Tony B. Man, it's hot outside. It's so hot. I saw a dog chasing a cat and they were both walking. If you've seen that movie, you know where I got that from. Welcome to this week's edition of Street Beat. We have a very special guest that will be joining us. I'd like to say thanks to Cindy Bright for passing the baton. Good to have Heartbeat Radio back on the air, and Cindy discussing what was going on in Redmond, of all places. So welcome back, Cindy. Joining me right after me will be Daniel Bellis, who'll be again hosting this week's edition of Fresh Juice. We'll give you that update a little bit later as well. So thank you for joining us here on Street Beat. Really looking forward to talking to our next guest. We'll be talking with TraeAnna Holiday of Converge Media. And so, TraeAnna, I want to say some nice stuff about you. But first, let me welcome you to the show. TraeAnna, how are you?
Hi, Tony, and all of y'all out there. How are you, man? Thanks for having me.
Good to have you, TraeAnna. And TraeAnna, I'm going to just give a little bit of your background information and we'll find out more about you. TraeAnna is a true Seattleite who's watched her city change in a number of ways. Her first passion was in the creative field. TraeAnna was acting and singing and stage managing productions while she was still in high school, and then took that passion to Howard University, where she studied theater management in her first year of college. Then through the communications program at the University of Washington-Tacoma, TraeAnna began to understand her value in the field and always wanted to tell stories she saw before her. This led to studying urban studies at UWT and creating a deeper understanding of why those changes she saw in Seattle existed. TraeAnna, wow.
Thank you, Tony.
And I have seen you and your work in the community, and so I'm excited to be able to introduce you to probably some new audience that may be unfamiliar with you, and for those who are very, very familiar with TraeAnna, maybe we can share some information with them and let them get to know you a little bit better. Well, I want to start, TraeAnna, by talking about Converge Media, a leading producer of culturally relevant content in Seattle and across the Pacific Northwest. Converge creates videos, podcasts, local news coverage curated specifically for an audience, and the morning update show with Omari and Trey that started a while ago. And so for those of you who may be familiar with Converge, or if the first time you saw them was when the incredible coverage that was coming to you, and then the reports in the morning when everything first broke following George Floyd's murder. Just a phenomenal job with that, and you've continued to grow Converge Media. But before that, you were doing the morning show. So, TraeAnna, let's start with that. Let's talk about your thoughts about the importance of media and communications. We're going to get to what led to Converge Media, but for you, independent media, why was that something, and is that something that you have become part of, a huge part of, and why is that important to you?
Well, thank you so much for asking that, first and foremost, Tony, because honestly, it's at the heart of the beginnings of my career. Fresh out of college from UW right here in our state, I went straight to King 5, and being a part of major media and seeing the inner workings of how stories come together, how everybody really runs in a kind of machine style, because there's not much innovation coming out of these major media outlets, it was a real indicator that I may not really have the greatest career in major media, and to be honest, because I thought this mainstream stuff is a lot different than what I have the passion to do. And so really having these independent channels, these on the ground, I love Omari's title, citizen journalists, really on the ground that are covering stories that matter to them, covering stories that are personal to a certain degree because they're in their city, in their neighborhood, in their community, affecting people they know, people they love, people they grew up with. There's a certain touch that comes from that line of narrative building and storytelling that really resonates with me, Tony. And I knew when Omari told me straight up, hey, Trey, we need to come together. Let's do this. I said, bro, let's do this, because there's never really been stories that really come from our community that are told at the same level and produced at the same level as some of the things he and I both learned through our careers, as he's done a lot of independent media channels all throughout the world. So we both have understood this from a very personal perspective, and both of us graduating from Garfield and being born and raised in the Central District really put its own personal touch to what we bring. And so we're happy to do that, man, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Okay, awesome, fantastic, Trey. I'm going to get to Converge here in a second, but again, you talked about maybe there wasn't a place for you in media, and that may not ring a bell for some people. So when you say that as part of your drive to be part of the media, creating media, make sure that media has a representative voice, what do you mean when you say that? Because for one, folks say, wait, wow, okay, you went to King 5, you made it. That's
right. Right. Well, to be honest, it was truly understanding the ways that major, mainstream media channels tell stories. First of all, they really come from the wire. They're not stories that, are coming from the producers that are there on the ground, that are doing, personal stories of their neighbors or their, what their community is experiencing. The kind of general discourse that happens when you go home or when you're mowing your lawn on a Saturday morning, right? And your neighbors are all talking about something. There's something that is personal with that. And I wasn't experiencing that at King 5. I wasn't experiencing people being able to even sometimes tell stories that they felt would have made a mainstream hit. And so I personally was actually at the assignment desk answering calls from people from the community who thought, wow, maybe King 5 could come down and take a look at this amazing event that's going on in the community. Maybe they would want to spotlight this school who's doing this fundraiser for a child who just, was paralyzed from the waist down. But those kind of stories get buried, in mainstream media. They have to tell stories that have a national appeal. And although they do choose human interest stories, there are many that don't get chosen. And honestly, I watched many producers that I worked with personally, kind of gripe about that. They didn't want to only have to tell these specific stories. They really wanted to be able to connect with community in a way that is a bit blocked in those mediums.
My guest again is TraeAnna Holiday. The morning update show on Converge Media, 11 o'clock to noon, Monday through Friday is where you can catch it. And you got your own show now. We got so much to talk about, TraeAnna. I'm glad that we have an hour to do this.
Yes, Tony B, I'm so glad we finally made it happen.
Okay, now let's get to the point of creating a media company, a media entity, and talk about how that gets started and how that got started with you, and the story of how that just became? Is it through Africatown Land Trust? And just tell us how it got started.
Yeah, so Omari really has been such a driving force with all of the media that's been coming out of, kind of the Central District community, specifically from Africatown, and then merging and creating and already building Converge. What happened was, he was creating all of these amazing stories in community, and he was having such a great resonance with community members that he said, you know what, I'm going to start to bolster, my company, Converge Media, and Trey, this is something that he and like Eric Calligraphy started 4 years before me, about 3 years before me.
Okay.
And so they were already covering certain stories that were important to community members and that, were not going to be covered in mainstream media. And so then I was able to connect with him and start telling stories from Africatown Community Land Trust perspective as we were doing a lot of work on the ground to secure the funding for what is now in the works, Africatown Plaza. That's going to be right there on 24th in spring and 23rd in spring. And he and I were able to begin creating all of these amazing stories. And honestly, Omari would be there burning the midnight oil, churning out articles and, getting interviews with folks and creating pieces that were really telling the stories of community. And then, honestly, this year when coronavirus hit our community so rapidly, Omari said, look, we need to do a show that is dedicated to giving our community information because we know that, again, there's no lens that's directly centered on the people that we care about and that we grew up with. We know that, hey, some of these stories are going to get buried. They may not be able to tell some of the things that happen specifically with our businesses that we know are going to be hit hard. So that is what really resonated with both of us. And we said, look, we have to do something and bring Converge into this medium of, hey, every day telling stories that matter to our community. And that's really what birthed the Morning Update show. And so he brought DQ in, Dancing in the Rain Media. Again, it's a beautiful family affair, to be honest, because I still work with Africatown Community Land Trust. Omari building Converge and already had Converge and then just built it up and then bringing DQ in and Daryl with Dancing in the Rain Media. It really is a testament to the brilliance in our community. So that's really the birth of the Morning Update show and how Converge began to emerge out of a lot of the work that Omari put in with Africatown Media Network. So it was a great, great journey. It's been amazing.
You are listening to Street Beat with me, your host, Tony B. The voice you've been listening to is TraeAnna Holiday of the Morning Update show, Converge Media. You also got a little bit of her background with Africatown Land Trust. And TraeAnna, we can have a whole different another conversation about that other life in your world and the things that you do as well. With Converge, did the morning show evolve, or did you have an idea of how you wanted it to be? Now, putting together a show for folks who are out there is easier said than done. But when you make it look easy, like y'all do, sometimes, you don't really know what goes on behind the scenes. Did you have an idea? These are the kind of stories that we wanted to cover. These are the things that we want to do. Did you have that in line? Or a lot of times with media, as you know, you have to have that flexibility to roll with the times.
Right. Absolutely. And that's really how it started. Originally, we said, look, we need to make sure that we're pretty information heavy. Let's cover the headlines in ways that are important to us. Let's make sure that certain things are covered. And Omari began pulling clips together that really began to curate our show. And we ended up coming up with these segments that covered the headlines in very specific ways. So we did local headlines, national headlines, and then we did global. And so that's how we built the show. And then
Oh, it's in here.
after yeah, that's it.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Sorry. And then after that, we said, you know what? Look, honestly, it was a response to protest movement, right? Omari was literally out going home one day because he lives downtown, and he happened to capture the first, I guess, property destruction that was happening in Chinatown ID, and with that, he he went, wait a minute, there's going to be a lot of stories that come out of this. And literally, we saw the explosion after May 30th or May 30th, right? So right downtown, a big, evolution happening. But that's really how the morning update show evolved over time. We were just doing headlines, and then we thought, hey, we need to start covering all of this that's going on right in our city. We need to make sure we're doing that. So you saw a real evolution with the morning update show that started with these headlines, merged into what was going on right in our own city. And now we have a great mixture of both.
And again, as you're taking this journey and growing and expanding and building audience, you have to be aware of something that in mainstream media they don't have to necessarily be aware of, and that is the fact that you are black. Or am I completely wrong about that as you're meeting this? Were you saying to yourself, you know what, this isn't about race, this isn't about color, this is just about reporting the news? You tell me.
I do think that when you have a community lens, you really do tend to tell the stories in ways that really make sense to you, and that really resonate with your community. I know that for me, it's been a big deal for me because, again, as I said in my beginnings, we could tell stories the same ways that King 5 does, or the same ways that Como does. But what gives us an edge is that we have a different perspective. Omari is black. I am black. We grew up in a black neighborhood. We grew up, going to a school that resonated with, strong black culture. And at Garfield High, I just feel like it would do our audience a disservice if we didn't actually embed our perspective in the ways that we respond to the national headlines, to what's going on in our city. We really have to bring that perspective, and that's what makes us unique.
My guest again is TraeAnna Holiday of Converge Media. We're sharing a little bit about TraeAnna and also learning more about Converge Media. So let's talk now about a little bit about the production of what takes place. I want to look a little bit behind the scenes, and if you can, share some theater of the mind as you're beginning to, every day you're doing another show. What is the routine that you go through to prepare for that show? Then when you get to the point where you're about to air the show, again, there are a number of things going on behind the scenes. Why don't you walk us through that process if someone was to be able to be a fly on the wall of Converge Media like I've been able to be?
Well, as you know, Tony, it's definitely a process, and there's a lot of work that really goes into curating the content that will be aired on every episode. And a lot of that work is done days or weeks in advance, and sometimes the day before, because as you can see with the morning update show, we also have to be responsive to how quickly things have been moving in our city. So, there's a lot of work in preparation that's done to sometimes curate pieces like what we have going on now, our Throwback Thursday, something that Omari brought in early on in the morning update show's history, and we have tried to keep that alive. And so we know that on Thursdays we want to have a clip that really does resonate with us throwing it back to some old school time, and we're paying homage to something of the past. And so those segments can be, produced well in advance. But we also have, like I said, responses that need to be, drawn up sometimes the morning of. So really, there's a wide variety of ways that pieces are produced that make it into every episode. And then for Omari and I, there's really a lot of work that we have done on our personal relationship of being colleagues to really understand one another that allows our communication and all of the good parts about, how he and I, combine our energies. All of that stuff comes across naturally on camera, and we're happy for that because we understand that it's not always easy, and sometimes it looks, very effortless, and that's just because, it really is. He's my good friend, my brother for real, and that love, is genuine, and so I'm thankful that we're able to bring that out on a daily basis for our audience.
You're listening to me, Tony B, Street Beat, right here on Rainier Avenue Radio.world, your community radio station. My guest is TraeAnna Holiday of Converge Media, and a lot of other things too, and giving us some information and background on herself and on Converge Media. For anyone who may not know where to find you with the morning update show, let's TraeAnna, if you can, all of the ways that people can take a listen, can take a look, can watch, can if it's on demand. How can people get down if they want to check out the show?
Absolutely, Tony B. They can follow us at Where We Converge on just about every social channel or Converge Media. There's also our website at whereweconverge.com, so they can find all of the streams there on the website. But we are everywhere on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, so they can definitely find us on all of the channels.
That's another thing. Let's talk about how digital media again has created a venue for what I like to call media content creators, and what a difference that's made in your ability to again share the narrative that you're talking about.
Yes, I think that plays a major role because we know that the pathways of the past were very, very steeped in hierarchy, in bureaucracy, that made it very difficult for a lot of independent content creators to get on board with some of the major channels, right? You had to go through TV or major radio. There weren't a lot of options. And right now, there's a lot of options that allow anyone who's inspired to create content. You can do it. I mean, the phones these days are amazing, the capabilities of the cameras. So it's not just the digital sphere, it's also the emergence of technology that allows for so many independent content creators. And yes, sometimes I can create, a stream of things that define the good stuff. But honestly, it really also showcases that there's a lot of people making content for micro-targeted audiences, right? And so you can find what you really love when you find something good, right? You're like, oh, I love the way this person creates. I get to follow this person. Now I get to see them in different, arenas. I get to, go to events they're at. That really makes it an interactive experience. And so the digital media sphere has allowed for so much beautiful work, to be honest. Again, people can have their opinions. I love the platforms, and I love the ability to be able to bring my voice out on them. I tried it. As soon as I graduated, I applied everywhere. Vice, Oprah, Tyler Perry. I was trying to work for all of the major, production houses. And that gets really hard when you're in the Pacific Northwest, specifically up here in Seattle. You have to get to LA or Atlanta or New York, in one of those hot spot cities, to really have a flourishing career. And so I love that, now audiences can find us on all of these different mediums. You have something like Twitch, which is now hitting the gamer sphere, you know what I mean? And now gamers are getting inspired by the content they're actually absorbing on a channel and on a platform that normally they would just be watching other gamers. So I think that it's a beautiful thing, honestly, Tony. I'm happy to be a part of this explosion of digital media, for sure.
And are you finding that you're able to really connect with your core audience through digital media, through the internet? One of the things that has been in discussion is, in particular, there are segments of the population that are not connected to the internet, that don't have that type of access. In that regard, are you finding that you're able to penetrate, or what are some of the things that you do or you think in terms of, there's still a portion of the segment that unfortunately can't reach us?
Right. You are so right to uplift this, Tony, because it is a real thing. And to be honest, this is where I understand my situation is unique, because we work in the communities that we serve in. And so honestly, a lot of my connection still is happening because I go up to the Central, the Central Area Senior Center up there. I visit people like Nana Kabibi and Dr. Mims. I still convene critical conversations with Dr. Maxine Mims every third Friday of every month, right? And that is where a lot of our elders are already plugged in. They finally got Zoom down. They said, look, we can do Zoom and we can get on. If Dr. Mims is on, we'll find a way to get on. And it's just, I find other ways to connect, because you are right. If we only focus on the digital media sphere, we are missing some people. So I think newsletters are great. If we don't hit our seniors and our elders that have been in our communities passing down wisdom, that is a real misnomer. So we have to find creative, innovative ways to still bring them the news. And we definitely try it with our show at Converge Media. We started with an audience of we know was our elders in the community that had Facebook down, and we said, look, we're going to make sure we stay on Facebook, because it is at least one of the platforms that some of our elders are on. And so now they can kind of share it with some of their friends when they come over and visit and have tea and coffee. Now they're sharing it in that way, right? And I think Corona made it difficult too, because people stopped visiting. But we saw waves of that, people sharing it in households, just like a friend who would come over and watch a TV show, right? We're seeing it happen in that kind of way. So I do think if you're really caring to reach our elder audience and our seniors in our community, then it does take some more innovative measures. And I think newsletters are great. There's still a way that you can, go through the community and make sure that they're at some of the community grocery stores, just print them out and have them there so people can pick them up and stay connected.
My guest again is TraeAnna Holiday of Converge Media. You're listening to Street Beat right here on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. We're going to be back in about 3 minutes. We'll continue this conversation. Trey has her own show. We're going to find out about that too right after this.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Check us out on social media. Facebook and Instagram, Rainier Avenue Radio.world, and on Twitter at Rainier Ave Radio.
If you're an older adult or someone of any age with underlying medical conditions, you're at a higher risk for severe illness from COVID-19. Look, the good news is there are steps you can take to protect yourself and loved ones. Wash your hands often. Stay home unless you need food, medicine, or medical care. If you need to go out, stay at least 6 feet away. Avoid people who are sick and make a plan. Identify and talk with someone who can help care for you if you get sick. Have supplies like medicine and groceries on hand, or find ways to have them brought to you. And remember, wear a cloth face covering when around others. For more information, call Seattle King County Public Health at 206-477-3977. That's 206-477-3977.
Hey y'all, it's Princess Robin, host of Traveler's Guide to Venus and Mars. Join us each Tuesday at 3 p.m. Pacific as my tour guides and I explore the quirky galaxy of relationships from various perspectives. There are no right or wrong answers, and we keep it real. But most importantly, we have fun. So raise a glass and buckle up for Traveler's Guide to Venus and Mars, Tuesdays at 3 on RainierAvenueRadio.world. Smooches!
This is the news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
The Mississippi Flag Commission has made their choice for a new state flag. According to local news source WLBT3, the Flag Commission voted 8-1 to choose the new Magnolia flag over the Great River flag. The commission also approved its change to rename the flag to, quote, In God We Trust, to the In God We Trust flag. In November, voters will ultimately decide to either accept or reject the Flag Commission's choice. The flag displays a large magnolia, Mississippi's state flower. The Great River flag comes in second place from the poll. The Mississippi River is also featured along the top of the shield-like design.
And that's your news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Your sexual and reproductive health care can't wait. Not now, not ever. Planned Parenthood is here with you to provide you the quality care you need from the experts you trust. Call or visit us online to book your appointment today.
What up, y'all? DJ Dirty Harry hanging out with my guys at RainierAvenueRadio.world. Check them out.
You're back on Street Beat with me, your host, Tony B, the beat of the city. Converge Media and TraeAnna Holiday. This evening we are joined by TraeAnna, sharing just a little bit more information about the morning update show host and background and learning more about Converge Media. TraeAnna, you have a new show, right?
Absolutely. Yes, I do. This show is Chats with Trey. And honestly, it is a real testament to just work that I have been wanting to do, because we always have such great conversation, right? When you're just like, hey, I always have these great conversations, great chats with folks. And honestly, I just want something that could capture those chats. I'm sure that, some of the stuff we're talking about might resonate with other folks. And so they were like, let's do a show about it. And so that's how Chats with Trey was born. And it really does allow me to have a longer format with some guests that sometimes they're from, the morning update show. And it's like, this is too long. We need to bring you on something that allows you to just chat it out. And it provides a platform that really, it was like, these are the types of shows I wanted to work on, when I just wanted to be behind the camera. Like I said earlier, doing all those applications to all of those outlets. I, remember, being so inspired by some of the conversations that would happen on certain talk shows, or, just really being able to sit down and kind of get to know who people are. And so I went, there's nobody really doing that enough right here. Like, I want to see it. I want to get to know folks. I want to feel it. And Chats with Trey is really about uplifting some of the best in our community that have been doing work, maybe just started doing work, but it's really about connecting and chatting it up with folks. And so I'm really thrilled that we've launched season 2. We did our first season was a few testing episodes as we got our concept down fully. So shout out to the Converge team that's been really helping me produce that. And I'm really thankful that we came up with a solid product. People have been asking me about it, and I'm glad that it's resonating with folks.
Okay, and same question. Is there a time? When can we hear? How can we hear? All the 411 on that.
Yes, absolutely. Chats with Trey airs on Converge Media, same channels, whereweconverge.com, every Friday at 2 p.m. You can catch it on Facebook at Where We Converge. Like I said, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch. You can catch it pretty much anywhere you're watching your digital media on Fridays at 2 p.m.
My guest again, TraeAnna Holiday of Converge Media. Trey, what does journalism mean to you? Journalism. There is the term journalism and what that means and historically what that has meant. What does journalism mean to you?
Yeah, for me, journalism is really about reporting the truth. I think there is a fine fine bodies of work that really point to the essence of journalism, which is, I think of just the word. It's journaling what is going on. It is journaling what is happening, right? And it's a way that you tell stories that people are experiencing in a way that just bears the truth of the story. And of course, there's ways to do this with fine tuning it and having certain pitches in there that may be angled towards certain things. But real journalism is really about journaling the truth.
Okay, and as you're probably going to figure out, this is a portion of the show where I'm going to say one word.
All right.
And then I'm going to give you the runway to take off on that one word. So when I say communication, what does that mean to you as a journalist, as a morning update person? Communication.
Communication is literally sharing and listening to the voices of the day, right? And when I say the voices of the day, what I mean by that is there are specific voices that begin to resonate in any community, any city, any state. And communicating what that is, what those voices are saying, what is going on, to me is the body embodiment of real communication coming from the perspective of the morning update show. It is sharing that. It's being a lens for that. And we communicate the essence of the day, what people are feeling, what we're seeing out there, what's going on, the lives that we're living, and how they're being affected in specific ways. Communication is really having, using your voice to express what is going on. So I think communication for me is really expression.
Okay, and here's the last of the trifecta of these words. Storytelling. What is storytelling for you?
I'm glad you end on storytelling because let me tell you, it is the favorite of mine. Those three words you just gave me, storytelling is my favorite because for me, storytelling allows for the audience to be a part of what they're hearing. Storytelling goes deeper than communicating or journalism because storytelling says that this is the way that I'm going to share the facts. This is the way that I'm going to communicate the expression I want. This is the way I'm going to bring all of the puzzle pieces together to actually affect my audience with what I'm creating. So that's what storytelling is all about.
My guest, TraeAnna Holiday, morning update show, and it's Chat with Trey. Is that what it is?
Yeah, Chats with Trey.
Chat with Trey. And you can catch this Friday at 2:00 as well. Chat with Trey. I want to switch up a little bit here, Trey, and you know how we get down on Street Beat. We just have open, frank, and honest conversation. Let's talk about what it means right now to be in the times that we are in. We had the coronavirus pandemic, which we knew this was going to however it's impacting, it's going to be worse on Black people. Let's put it that way. We knew that. I mean, I can use the $25 words, but we know that. Then we have George Floyd, May 30th, and for a lot of folks, that was a reckoning for a lot of folks. That was an awakening for a lot of folks. That was eye-opening. In the times that we are in right now, how do you reconcile things that you knew were taking place already as a journalist, but at the same time understand that you also have to report this information for people who are just really finding out what was going on, and they're saying, okay, well, we trust you as a resource. How do you navigate the journalism, the storytelling, and the communication based off of the social climate that we are in right now?
Yeah, that is, I feel like it's an everyday assessment, honestly. And without even knowing it, it just becomes a part of how you're going to approach the day. Right now, for me, the best way that I can be authentically me is by being just that, right? So in every space I'm in, that's what people are going to get. They're going to get authentic Trey. And for me, what that really means is, hey, I got to be honest. And if I'm feeling some type of way about something, I need to be able to say it. And I'm going to maybe think about it, for a couple of seconds. I'm getting better at that. But I've learned that that's how I've been dealing with it. I've been able to, make sure that I'm surrounded by the people that understand a little bit of this. And when I'm not, what I do is I share what I know, right? So that way, maybe they'll see it in a different light. Maybe, it'll make them think. And I've had great discussions with folks that are on the same side as me, right? See things in very similar ways as myself. And also those who don't. And these kind of discussions range the spectrum. But what's so beautiful about all of them in this climate right now is that I think we have more folks than not who want to understand. And when they don't, yes, maybe they have hard reasons for not understanding. Maybe that's been their upbringing or, the ways that they've been insulated in their own lives. But I think that even for those people, there is some form that allows them to maybe crack at times and really open up. And yeah, not all people, right? Some folks are going to be far left and far right. I understand that fully. But I think what I've really experienced, Tony, is that there's a lot of people who want to understand. And it makes me happy to feel that energy. And I feel a lot of that everywhere I go.
This question, Trey, I'm gonna leave it to you. You can answer as Trey, the morning update show person, or you can answer as Trey, or maybe they are one and the same. This next question, we're moving pretty quickly into the core of the election season, the political season. The people who don't pay attention are paying attention. People who pay attention are paying even more attention. What are your thoughts about the current political climate, voting, democracy, where we're at now with this election cycle?
Yeah, this is such a politically charged environment right now, honestly. And people that know me know I never really was one for politics, right? I just feel that there's something about it that it doesn't allow it to be authentic, enough for me. There's something about it that always feels that it has to fit a very specific peg, right? It has to be this way on either side. What I will say is that right now, there's a lot of folks that are I think getting news from very specific sources on purpose, right? And so when we talk about these extremes that exist and why it feels so politically charged, I think the extremes are why. And the ways that major media unfortunately has polarized itself allows for these factions to be insulated with what they're consuming. And so I think that right now, democracy and voting, people need to do their own research in their specific county. I don't want folks, that I know particular. So yeah, this goes out to anyone. I just really don't want the general consensus to be that, look, I'm comfortable with these outlets and this is where I get my data. This is where I get my information. I'm going to stay there. And because of that, it's going to either make me do drastic things like not even vote, number one, or number two, it's going to have me so anxiety ridden about my vote that something else may take place in terms of my own personal health. I think that it's unfortunate because a lot of folks across this country don't have what we have right here in Washington. We have such a strong male, voter participation already. We understand that up here in Washington, we've always had it. So ever since I was able to vote, I've always voted by mail. I never went anywhere to punch a ballot anytime that I voted. So I think a lot of our people, especially some of the young folks that are just now beginning to vote, they have a great opportunity right here in Washington state to not have to deal with some of the major discourse that's happening nationally around mail-in ballots. But for other states that are steeped in this kind of discussion, it really is doing a number on democracy, unfortunately. And I think we saw a lot with this presidency that has really made a lot of people question the validity of democracy in this country. So I think that we stand a chance to really turn some things around with maybe some new administration. I encourage folks out there, to vote. And I'm thankful that at least I know for sure in Washington state, we have a pretty strong mail-in ballot process already. And so I'm thankful that people have that as an option here. But, I'm really hoping that folks stay encouraged because there's a lot of discourse out there that feels discouraging in nature.
You're listening to Street Beat. It's me, your host, Tony B, right here on Rainier Avenue Radio. World. We got a promo that does that. I'm trying to imitate it now. It's pretty cool. My guest is the TraeAnna Holiday of Converge Media. What does the future hold for Converge Media now? When you're in meetings and you're looking in your crystal ball and you say, you know what, we want to be here in 6 months, here in a year, 2 years. What does that look like for Converge Media as an entity?
This is a beautiful thing because honestly, it is something that I know Omari and when he was first starting Converge, he's always talking about having something that is really beneficial to his children and having both of his children already be so involved in media, coming from such a media stricken family. I can tell you this much, that I definitely anticipate a time where his son graduates college and brings his knowledge back to the table with some fresh energy, right? And doing it so much better than his father, right? We've talked about this internally as a team. Also, really expanding the producers we have on board and bringing up the next generation. Omari just did a declaration this week encouraging parents that have children who are interested in media to reach out directly to him because he definitely does want to help steward the next content creators, the next citizen journalists, the next generation to tell the stories that are going to be important to them. And so that those are some of the things that we definitely want on the horizon for Converge. I also know bolstering our shows, right? Bolstering the content, because we know that people want to see different things, and people love when content is created locally, and they can touch base with the producers, and they can touch base, and they're like, oh, I know that location. Oh, I love that place that they're filming in today, or I love that business that they spotlighted. And so being able to continue on the path that, we have really created, and building that up is really where I can see us going. It's going to be some amazing stuff. I'm excited for it.
And what about the future for the whole person, TraeAnna Holiday?
Wow. Wow. For me, I am so honored that I'm able to work in my community that really has shaped me and helped me become the woman I am today. So I really hope that I can continue to make my community proud. And, honestly, telling the stories that are important to our people is so at the core of who I am and who I know I'll continue to be. And that we are able to really spotlight Seattle as a mecca of Black excellence that the nation can look to, because we've been underlooked. I'll just say that for sure. And looking at, someone like yourself, a Cleve Tyson, a Dr. Maxine Menz, look, an Omari Salisbury, a Y. King Garrett, the people that I am in community with have become, Kabibi Monet, how dare I not say? I mean, she has been a lifeline to me. When I talk about Patricia Valentine and Marsha Arunga, these are the people besides my blood family, my Ruth Holiday, my Tracy Holiday, that have totally benefited me. Like, they've given me so much. My father, who's been there every step of the way. I really can only say that I'm excited to be in community with all of these amazing people, and that me personally, that I continue to create things that make them proud.
Well, Trey, I can tell you that at Rainier Avenue Radio, we're excited to have a relationship and a partnership and a collaboration with Converge Media, and an understanding that that we can do this also together.
Yes.
and be focused on the things that we are doing. My guest again is TraeAnna Holiday of Converge Media, the morning update show. We did talk a little about the new show, Chat with Trey, which you can hear at 2 o'clock on Friday. Trey, it's just been great having this opportunity to get to know you on the air, and then have our listeners also get this chance to know you on the air.
Oh, yes, absolutely, Tony B. This has been amazing. You have all the greatest questions.
I do want to give you the opportunity here, though, and we have a few minutes. If there is something that you want to say that I didn't ask, or just something that you want to share or you want to communicate, whatever that may be, take a couple minutes, and don't be afraid to be, promotionally sick, shamelessly promotional, Whatever you want to do for a couple minutes, Trey, I want to give you an opportunity here for final words.
Well, thank you so much for that, Tony B. This has been amazing. And I knew it. I mean, the minute that we met, I was like, oh my gosh, you are the man. So I'm just thankful. This is really life affirming for me, honestly. And I'll say this. I think that we're witnessing a lot in our community, right? There is a lot of kind of stories coming out. We know our families, some families are dealing with gun violence and police brutality and different things that are, really compounding, and COVID comes, and then all of these things happen. But I'll just say this: the resilience that I have seen within our community has been some of the most beautiful, life-changing, uplifting, positive energy that I've ever really been able to witness. And I think that our ancestors will be proud of how we are, stepping up to the plate right now. And so I encourage folks to really join in on the movement. If you haven't brought your voice to the table, your time, your talent, your treasure, your skill, your opinion, your deep thought, your intellect, whatever it is that you have, right? Even if it's just like, hey, I got time and I just want to, come and help out. I think that our city is seeing a beautiful movement happening with King County Equity Now Coalition. So join in. KingCountyEquityNow.com has opportunities if you want to donate, if you want to volunteer, if you want to share it with someone, sign the petition and stay engaged with the movement. I have been repeating something Omari said months, it feels like months ago already, but when he encouraged folks to take their stake back in this country, because we're all stakeholders here, and many of us have been running on autopilot for far too long, and giving our authority to those who we elect, those who we think are doing the job, and somebody other than ourselves. We need to remind ourselves that this country is for us. And if it's not working for a lot of people, majority of us, then we need to collectively change that. So I just encourage folks to bring their time, talent, and treasure to the table.
My guest again, from Converge Media, TraeAnna Holiday. TraeAnna, thank you for joining us, and it's just been such a pleasure talking to you. And before I go, I gotta say what's up to my guy Omari. What's up, O?
Good stuff. Absolutely.
And hey, anything that anytime that you're always welcome on Rainier Avenue Radio. I'll just put it that way. And continued success with all that you are doing and all that Converge is doing, and what you have brought to our communities. Just congratulations on everything. Coming up next, we've got Daniel Bellis and Fresh Juice. Always a great show. Who's the guest, Daniel? Shannara. Shannara's the guest. And conversation, you'll be able to call in, and he'll be playing music. They'll be having conversation. That is it. That is all the time that I have. That's going to do it for the kid. It's me, Tony B., your host of StreetBeat, saying, remember, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you are probably right. I'm out. Peace.
You know you can't get in radio.world.